In a stunning development in Russia, the Wagner mercenary group chief Yevgeny Prigozhin was on the passenger list of a plane that crashed in Russia on Wednesday, according to the press service of Russia's Federal Air Transport Agency. 62-year-old Prigozhin is now presumed dead. 10 people were presumably killed in this crash near the town of Kuzhenkino. The plane was en route from Moscow to St. Petersburg. Unsurprisingly, an advisor to the Ukrainian President Zelensky said in a statement, the demonstrative elimination of Prigozhin and the Wagner commander 2 months after the coup attempt is a signal from Putin to Russia's elites ahead of the 2024 elections. US President Joe Biden told reporters, I don't know for a fact what happened, but I'm not surprised. There's not much that happens in Russia that Putin is not behind. The White House National Security Council spokesperson said, if confirmed, no one should be surprised. The disastrous war in Ukraine led to a private army marching on Moscow, and now it would seem it has led to this. Prigozhin was the head of the private paramilitary organization Wagner Group, which played a key role in Russia's invasion of Ukraine before briefly launching an insurrection against the Russian military in June. Forces loyal to Prigozhin marched towards Moscow before turning back. Prigozhin allegedly struck a deal subsequently with Russian President Vladimir Putin, where he did not face prosecution and was relocated to Belarus, according to the Kremlin. The Russian president and Prigozhin, in fact, even met face-to-face, according to the Kremlin, on the 29th of June, less than a week after the failed coup. On the 3rd of July, Prigozhin released a message on social media claiming the revolt was aimed at fighting traitors and mobilizing our society, as he put it. Now, even as we wait for an official confirmation of his death, the question is, wasn't Yevgeny Prigozhin a dead man walking since that day in June when he decided to take on Vladimir Putin, mount a coup against him and his military, and humiliate him before the Russians and the world? Wasn't that failed coup Prigozhin's death warrant? What happens now to the Wagner Group and to Russia's war against Ukraine?
We have nothing to do with this situation, that's for sure. I think everyone knows who this concerns.
I don't know for a fact what happened, but I'm not surprised.
Do you think Putin was responsible?
There's not much that happens when Russia and Putin not behind, but I don't know enough to know the answer.
All right, Shri is still with us from Washington, D.C. Also joining us at this point is Ambassador Suresh Goyal, former diplomat. For months now, Ambassador Goyal, I've been asking on this show, and you've been on many of those shows with me, is Yevgeny Prigozhin a dead man walking? Even as we wait for an official confirmation of whether he indeed died in that crash, all indications are that he did. The question really is, did he not sign his own death warrant the day he decided to mount a coup against Vladimir Putin? I mean, who launches a rebellion against Vladimir Putin and gets away with it?
Absolutely, Neha. And good to be back with you once again. Good question, really. The point is that Prigozhin should have known the day he tried to take on Putin in the coup. Putin is ex-KGB, a strong man. He has dealt with the situation for a long time. He remained calm and very quiet and measured during the entire episode. And even after this crash, there is hardly anything that he has said. Now, we do not know whether he's still walking or not, but he's not visible anymore, really. And that is important. The point really here is not whether Prigozhin is walking, he's invisible, where he is and where he is not. There will be conspiracies and we will never know the truth. Maybe he was there, maybe Putin was behind it, maybe he was not, but that is immaterial. But what it does really prove one thing is that Putin as an enemy for the West is not an easy nut to crack. And therefore, if Biden thought that he could use Zelensky to keep Putin in check, he must now know that it is not it is not an easy thing to do, really. And therefore, that this conflict, and I will not call it Ukraine. Ukraine is only a proxy, really, in that sense. If by now Zelensky has not realized that this entire episode, it is Ukraine which is suffering, not not Russia. Russia is suffering, but not that much really. And all speculations are that Ukraine is not really winning the war. Whether they're losing or not is an entirely different matter. But the fact is that if Biden thought that using Ukraine, he could minimize, diminish Putin, he should realize that it is not going to be an easy task anymore. And I think that is what is important. So the only two alternatives now before the world would be either we continue to face a long drawn out war. Would that be actually in favor of the USA? Or we try to find a solution where there is a possibility of Europe coming back on track economically again, which I think is a better alternative, but unlikely. Neha.
All right, interesting. You've also given us a larger perspective on where you think the Ukraine war goes from here. Shri, coming to you. Zelensky says, I'm not surprised. Joe Biden says, I'm not surprised. Elon Musk also decides to weigh in saying, well, this actually took longer than I expected. Your thoughts, Shri, on what's gone down?
So Elon Musk is right, Neha, and I don't think Putin actually kept his calm. And how do we know that? Because June 24th, when the march on Moscow was mounted, Putin's plan was ready to wipe out, Prigozhin and his entire Wagner, the key members of the group. But he was told to restrain himself by no other than the president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko. And how do we know this? Because Lukashenko himself told his military leaders and journalists in Belarus, and that's how this is known. So I'm not surprised that Prigozhin is now dead. He did, mount what was the biggest embarrassment and the threat to Putin in his long career as the leader of Russia. And Neha, a lot of people may not know, but in Russia, there's actually a law which Putin brought in, which said that anyone who rises against the government or does any act which embarrasses the government, or even against any official, a Russian official, they can be killed. And as the ambassador also said, the FSB, which was earlier the KGB, has actively killed many people who have seen to be inimical to Russia's interest, and especially people seen as traitors. And as far as traitors go, Neha, Prigozhin was the biggest, as big as they come. So it's not surprising at all that not just Prigozhin, but his core team, including the man who was running his operational army, responsible for the logistics of it, Dmitry, he's been killed as well in the crash. So Kremlin has struck, and it has struck comprehensively at the Wagner Group.
Absolutely. None of us are surprised. Many analysts have pointed out that this aborted coup was the biggest challenge mounted to Putin's authority in his 25-year reign. And I'm reminded today of what the CIA chief William Burns said. He said Putin is the ultimate apostle of payback. Do we have yet another evidence of that today? Gentlemen, completely out of time, but it's been lovely talking to you, Ambassador Goel and Shri. Thank you so much for joining us on Global Lens tonight.
Bye.
Thank you, Neha.